All right, YouTube is saying I'm live, so assume I am live. Let me flip a light on real quick. Okay, there we go. A little bit more light. I've got some coffee. And what would this be? I don't know, flat white. I use these cups for my coffee. I don't know if you can tell. Hey, Krister, they're I really like them. There's a shop in I go where we I guess in Soho, right around Union Square. I know for the vast majority of you or watch this will that won't make any difference at all. Called Fish is Eddie, and they have all kinds of fun. These kind of they're old sort of diner mugs or vintage. I don't even know if they're that old, but just kind of mugs you would see in diners and things like that. And they have all these collections, and I love to periodically go in there and grab some cups. But what I like about them, other than the fact that I like the designs and different things, I like having eclectic set. Is that they're sort of small. They're not some super big coffee cup, and we have some of those too for people who like that. But for me and my sort of coffee consumption and the way I brew my espresso and stuff, it works really well. So I get about I don't know, but maybe 36 to 40 ish, maybe a little bit higher depending on kind of grams of coffee, and then milk, and kind of get up towards the top, and it's a nice compact cup. Not too much coffee, not too much milk, just a nice chef's kiss. But I think so. We're going into coffee talk. In a cup like this, I feel like this in sort of third wave modern coffee shops, they'd probably call it a flat white or modern, or no, not Italian style cappuccino, but because I do so the milk, I do I go for the kind of I guess latte foam. I try to get the really micro foam, silky, kind of smooth, and that's not the classic Italian espresso where you have the really bubbly foam. But if you go to a fancier, I don't know, fancier is not even the right word. You go to kind of a non sort of Italian style coffee shop, say here in New York City. If you order a cappuccino, that's the kind of foam you get. You don't get the Italian super one. Sometimes some places might have a different word, or they'll say something, and some people will ask for the kind of, I don't know, I don't even know what it's called, foamier foam. But then in other places, and which started in Australia, was calling that a flat white. But from my understanding, it's pretty much the same drink. Some people will call it a cappuccino. Some people will call it a flat white. I think maybe, I don't know that really in Australia, but I imagine if people were used to having the kind of Italian style cappuccino, that's what you served, and having another name for your sort of micro foamy sort of cappuccino is maybe it's good or useful. So, any case, flat white sort of cappuccino. Anyhow, it's good. Okay, on to business. Business as usual. So, I took the liberty of doing a little bit of work on what we did yesterday. So here you see I've split up my screen. On this side, I've got that sort of move that my Ouija board, if you will, with different stuff, and then here I set up a just using Markdown for the moment, just to kind of get it out. So here's the actual text. If you're not familiar with Markdown, it's a really simple, easy to use text formatting where you can use any editor you want that can do basically plain text to just create your document using some simple markup to do things like call out lists and headers, and tables is a little bit always takes me a minute to remember how to do it. It's fine. Complex tables are not its jam. There's probably a way to do it, but I think it's and there are different variations of Markdown that add and do different things. GitHub has a variation of Markdown that they use. You'll see that mentioned sometimes. I think there's some other ones that's like Markdown. I think it was Markdown Plus or something that adds some things like footers, and there's some different things. Anyway, you might find different variations, but you don't need them. But it definitely it shines when you're not looking for super complicated stuff. You just want to get something out, which is what I'm trying to do right now. And obviously it doesn't have any layout. It just has a vertical layout there. I don't, at least out of the box, there's not, I'm not worried about doing, multi-column or this, that, or the other. Like, no, like, or, really, uh, formatting the tables or anything like that. Right? Just you take it as it is, but it's really nice because it's very easy to do once you get in the rhythm of it and the groove, and you get this kind of nice, clean output that you can throw out there. And of course, one of the I say and of course, another nice thing about Markdown is a lot of like blog platforms and some I don't know if some social media stuff will accept Markdown. In any case, it's very easy to you have a Markdown thing, copy it, paste it into something, and oftentimes the editor for whatever you're pasting into for a post somewhere will convert the Markdown. And so you have this one nice thing that you can just drop in anywhere you want to put it, and it'll pretty much go. I'm using Visual Studio Code, which is by Microsoft. It's free. It's essentially what do they call it? An IDE for basically programming languages, but it does plain text stuff just fine, and it's got lots of plugins that can do many different things. And I'm running the Markdown plugin, which helps with both the what do we call it? Syntax highlighting and doing this preview window, and also it can output to different things. So if I come here, I know there are probably shortcuts to a lot of stuff. See, Markdown. You can do a whole bunch of stuff from that. Oh, Krister says Markdown's the best. That or org mode. I've heard of org mode, but I haven't checked out org mode. I probably should. There's a few different text processors that can be pretty handy. I think the thing with Markdown is it's very nice and simple, and it's very well adopted across kind of internet stuff. Some of the other ones are very cool, and if you're just doing it on your own computer and you're going to do all the conversion and processing just on your laptop or your desktop or whatever, then there are lots of ones that have different things, and I've wanted to go and learn some of them. But I think if you mean to put stuff on the web and you're not running your own servers and have your own stack and things, you just want to do it, then Markdown I think is probably still the best choice, just because whether it's WordPress or whatever you're doing, usually there's Markdown support. Hey, Jason, this looks complicated. What looks complicated exactly? The formatting or the or the actual procedure? Because it really isn't. It's hashtags are your heading levels. So hash plus space. Yeah. So you have that's my top header, and then you just add more hashes if you want to decrease or go from header 1 to 2 to 3, or it's just a number of hashes. The asterisks do, and there's some different ways. There are some options when how you want to handle things like lists and bolding and things. That usually you can use underscores, you can use a couple different things, but basically wrapping something in 2 asterisks causes it to be bold. So if you notice here to here, 1 asterisk makes it italics, as in that, which translates to that. And the only one that's kind of, if you want to think it's a little bit tricky, you just got to kind of get there, is tables. Because you have to tell it, you kind of use the pipes, or use the pipes to set up your columns, use dashes to tell you that this is basically to separate the header of the table from the body of the table, and then you use again pipes to separate your columns, and you just kind of go down. Beep, 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 beep. It's like Discord. Yeah, I think Discord does do Markdown. Yes, you can do. I don't know if it does all Markdown tags, but yes, you can use Markdown in Discord as well. Once you sort of internalize it a bit, it really can become easy. And yeah, and I guess kind of what I was saying is, if you learn Markdown, then in things like Discord and some of the other social media services and in blog posts, you can kind of use it everywhere, because pretty much everywhere has support for it, or a plugin to give you support for it. And you can do a lot. You can do a lot. The other ones I find I always forget and I have to look up are images like these. I always forget, where's one so in images uses that the exclamation point, then brackets with your alt text in there, and then parens, and then your image. And links are also similar, and I always have to remember. So if there's a point where I will go and have to look up the Markdown, a Markdown cheat sheet, it's to remember what linkage does. And these are PNGs, which is why they show up. Unfortunately, since I'm in dark mode, the black text. I think once I put this out as a PDF or something, it'll be fine. But that's that. So we can kind of go over a bit where I am with things before we continue on. So trying to organize things a little bit, right? So I guess I'll use this one. So we have I might add more assumptions as we go on. I don't really have any kind of intro text at the moment, but the assumptions are right. Okay, time we're using 3 turns. A turn is 3 hours of in-game time. These distances, I hope maybe make it a little bit easier, sensible, or whatever. But let me know what you think, and we'll see where that goes. But so you have our distances: distant, far, near, and close. And I tried to come up with rationales, right? So distance within observable range, far is within missile distance, near is within charging or running distance, and close is within movement distance. So I hope that makes sense. You're kind of near is you can double move and get into contact with somebody. If you're close, then you can just make your regular move and get into contact with somebody. If you're far or closer, you're kind of within arrow range. Essentially, I'm not trying to get super granular with are you in spear range, but besides arrow range, or which arrow distance are you in? It's kind of like you're within some side of missile distance. You can figure that stuff out. I might put a die thing in here, so if you want to roll to figure out how far we are exactly, we could probably do that, but I'm not worried about it quite now. I just wanted these generic, kind of very broad things, like what a lot of people do with abstracting out distance in the dungeon. Those sort of rings of are you in kind of melee? Are you in sort of, and have a couple of distances out before you're sort of off the board and away with you. I then set up some difficulty ranges or difficulty names for things. So we basically splitting up the terrain and giving them difficulty ratings. So clear and grasslands is moderate, which is your normal, basically. And I'm pulling these directly from BX right now. I will make a version of this at some point when I've got it more finalized for my Do Anything D6, and also with of Wood and Wold for Shadow Dark. But for now, I'm just doing this. So you have 3 levels, which mirrors basically what you have in BX, which is clear and grasslands, moderate, woodlands, hills, mountains, barrens, oceans is challenging, and swamp, jungles, and deserts as extreme. And it's not exactly correct, because I think for getting lost, jungles and swamps are worse than mountains, but I think for encounters, do I have it for encounters? It might flip. I don't remember if I put for encounters. Did I put for encounters? I might not have. In any case, it's close enough. Like I said, I'm trying to stay broadly compatible, but some of the details, if a couple things flip around, that's fine. And you can always get more granular, like I do in my wilderness rules, with how you want to categorize different terrain types. So this is kind of just a very broad thing, just to get you started. Just get you started, get you in the door. After that, you can figure out where you want to do things. You can clearly, like I do, set up different categories that have different difficulties, and then you can have a lot of fun with that. Into the procedure. So every turn in the wilderness, roll the wilderness die and follow the procedure indicated by the result, if any. Right? And then now I do this. I don't know if they do this in Shadow Dark. I just wanted to set this up. I don't know if I strictly need it, but I think sometimes I get the impression, and I felt this way in Grimwild, that Grimwild, some of the rules of the way they were written relied on people understanding certain conventions with mechanics. And I wanted to kind of, I don't know, avoid that a little as much as I could, just in terms of, I don't want to assume that if I say step up or down at the table, what it means. So I kind of just lay it out there. And it also gives me a good guideline that I know all my tables that I'm using with this, the top, the top of the table right under the header, those are the, I guess, least challenging results, and they're going to increase in sort of difficulty or extremity as you go down. Right. So that now, at least for me, I that kind of puts it more in mind whenever I'm putting these tables together. Okay, that's how I'm going to do it. And now I can talk about, okay, stepping up means going up 1 value. So if you're at a thing that's on the 3rd row, then and you get something that says, hey, step up, then you go to the result on the 2nd row. If you're stepping down, you're moving down the table. You're going, you're on row 2 and you need to step down, then you go to the 3rd row. So, and I just kind of explain that briefly. which is also good for me because if I ever step away from this, come back and say, "Did what did I mean step up to be? What did I mean step down to be?" Then I can come up and I have this hopefully clear text that says, "Yes, this is what stepping up and stepping down means." So use them appropriately in the text. So now I did do some tweaking of the wilderness die, not too big things. So you can roll a d6, and I tried to set up, since we're doing this sort of step up, step down. The best results are at the top, and then the worst results are at the bottom. I'm these two, lost or encounter. It's debatable which one should be the worst one, but I don't think it really matters at that point. In any case, they're right there. And I went back and forth. I think I think I swapped these up and down about 3 different times. Lost and encounter, then lost. Oh no, then lost and encounter. Oh no, let's switch it again. So whatever. You could probably decide if you feel like one is worse than the other. And so here are the events that I have. So on a 1, you actually gain something. You find some food, water, or fuel. So I feel like that's good. And I might maybe I'll put a little table of what you find. So that's cool, right? Yeah, you found something, a little nice thing. 2 and 3 get nothing. So fully half the table is either a good thing or nothing. And nothing, no news is good news, as they say. So that's good. On a 4, you lose a supply. All right. Which I think in terms of these results is clearly the one that is least bad. If I had to pick, if you got to pick, hey, you got to have one of these 3 bad things happen to you. Which one do you want to happen? I think everyone would, unless you're down to your last food and you're in the middle of the desert, you're probably going to pick, hey, just lose the supply. I mean, maybe you'd say, oh, no, I want the encounter because I got a hunt or something, but you don't know what you're going to encounter, whether it's edible or whatever. So I don't know. But, I would imagine that one's the most lenient of the results. And then you have lost and encounter. Now, I added this bit here, which is that you can just roll flat on the wilderness die, or you can roll more dice, kind of like doing a advantage disadvantage, depending on, or really not a disadvantage. You can roll with sort of a advantage depending on the challenge of the terrain. Hey, Terrence. So in other words, so if we look at this, we go back to our table, right? We got moderate, clearing grasslands, challenging, wood, hills, mountains, right? And then extreme. If you're in regular terrain, so clear or grasslands, you roll 1 die, which is basically just roll this. If you're in the woods, what do we say? Woods, woods, hills, mountains, barrens, or ocean, you'd roll 2 dice, take the higher result. And this is something I like about advantage as a thing, because it means that this result, for example, the 1, becomes a lot less likely once you start rolling multiple dice, but it can still happen. It's if you add one of the die, if I said, well, roll a die plus 1, then you take that off the table, which I don't really want to do. I think even if you're in the desert, you might run into something you can use. So I want to keep it there, but it just gets harder and harder. It just gets more and more difficult to get that result, which I think is appropriate. It also means that you possibly do something where if you have a skill or an could be to re-roll one of those extras. Hey, if you're rolling multiple dice, re-roll one. Or of course, you can also do the moving up or down, stepping up, stepping down kind of thing. And then if you're in extreme, which is in this case, what swamps, jungle, desert, you would roll 3 dice and take the higher value. So in that case, if you're in the swamp, jungle, it doesn't totally make sense for the jungle, because you think, like, isn't there stuff everywhere? But I don't know. I've never been to the jungle. I don't know how easy it is to find food in the jungle. So I'm just gonna go with it and say, all right, on extreme, you're gonna have to roll triple 1s basically to do that. And then I thought this was a fun touch, since you're only grabbing the top die. So if you're rolling 3 dice, it doesn't have to be the max, because I have a thing here where you can actually add more dice or 1 more die. So you might be rolling, the worst of the worst would be you're in an extreme environment and then you have extreme conditions, but we'll get to that in a second. If you're rolling multiple dice and you roll 2 6s, then you combine the encounter result, because that's 6, and you would then roll the die again for something else, which could be good. You could end up with an encounter plus potentially getting a supply, but it is nice. I feel like it adds a complication. So I talk about, and I might actually change this because I'm thinking now maybe you could just have. So I have taken the highest non-6 result, but it could be that you could get a counter with two things. So I might need to rethink about that because you might want to get encounter plus encounter, but you could actually I'll leave that alone because probably you could once you get to your encounter table, you could set that up however you want. So I'll probably leave it as is. But I just thought it was fun. So you could potentially, if things are conditions are bad, you could end up with lost. You could end up with a compound result of, oh, I rolled an encounter, but I also rolled a 6 and then a 5, so now you're lost and you have an encounter. Here's the bit I was talking about. So if you want to have adverse conditions, you want to reflect that. If it's night or something else, add an extra die. So you could be potentially rolling 4 dice. And then if conditions are really bad, then you add the +1. So if it's really horrible, this one does get taken off the board and it shifts things up a notch, which I think is appropriate if it's horrible, and which is down here, extremely. If conditions are severe, you can add +1 to the highest. +1 to the highest die. Ooh, I could maybe add a thing in there. Actually, I will. Multiple 6s are rolled. Add +1 to the highest non-6 results. So that is a way in extreme conditions you could end up with two encounters. Which then, if you're rolling on an encounter table and you roll up 2 multi-party encounters, boy, you could get a battle of the 5 armies going, which actually could be pretty cool. Complicated, potentially, but cool. So that's that. All right. So then now I'm getting into the specific kind of sub mechanics. So we have lost, 3 levels of lost, drifting, off course, and disoriented. I don't know if I love disoriented as a word. I'm keeping it for right now. I was having trouble finding a good synonym for lost. It will come, but that's what I got right now. So you start with the first level, drifting, or you could select the level based on the terrain difficulty. So right, we're leveraging what we had before. So if you're starting off in the grasslands or clear, you're just kind of drifting. If you're starting off in the woods, hills, mountains, blah blah blah, you're going to start it off course. And if you're starting in desert or swamp, is there anyone else? Desert, jungle, or swamp, you go straight to disoriented. And then here I have some modifiers. Krister says, synonym for lost, misplaced. Yeah, you are misplaced. Yes, I know it's funny. It was weird because you don't. Where's the here? I'll show you because I actually have it up here. It's kind of funny. This is Merriam-Webster dictionary, so you can see here it's got some. You can see the different meanings, and some of them you get you get basically a synonym which you can then look up or use, whatever. So you get for ruined or destroyed physically or morally. Okay, desperate. All right, fine. Taken away or beyond reach of attainment. Denied. Insensible or hardened. That's kind of an interesting one. I don't see that used very much, but unable to find a way. um, not long or not no longer visible, which is the one I want. Like no longer visible. Yes, where's that one? But that one doesn't get a synonym. And then you go down to lacking assurance or self-confidence, helpless. So, and then when you go to the thesaurus, missing, because if you're lost, Krister, I get it. This is both. But what I'm trying to tell you, I'm not unaware of the thesaurus part. But the thesaurus, the dictionary gives you a lot of clues often and can lead you in directions. The point is that not only, as you're going to see here on the thesaurus side, it does not give me any direct synonyms for lost, as in no longer visible. It's in neither one. So if I want to have missing, which would be if I was talking about somebody else and saying they are lost, and yes, they're missing. But if you are lost, or I'm thinking myself, if I am lost, I'm not missing. I am where I am. I just don't know where I am. And then they have these others, the other meanings are missed, dropped, fell, discarded, or spent. And none of those are what I'm actually looking for. So, which is kind of funny, interesting. I want to get it's on my list of things to do. I want to get an Oxford English dictionary to have. I think they're really expensive. The website, I would use it more often, but it's subscription based, and I can't. I'm not at a point where I just subscribe to stuff like that. I would love to. I wish I was in a spot where I could like, yeah, I'm going to subscribe to it because I do find it very valuable, and I don't mind when these things that are sort of living documents. The dictionaries, they're not static. I think when you're younger, or maybe when you're a kid, you presume that things are static, but they're not. So I kind of get the subscription model, especially for things that take a lot of effort and expertise, but can't do it right now. Krister says disoriented isn't exactly right either. Well, yeah, I know, Krister. You might have missed it, but that was the first thing I said when I talked about it. It's like it's not quite right, but it's what I've got. So yeah, I'm well aware that it doesn't quite match up. Astray, maybe, though I feel like astray would be this one. Because the one thing is, remember, when you're at this level of lost, you're really lost. Astray, I could see actually replacing drifting, which I'm not in love with either. But I have off course already. Off course is the level above this one. So I need an extreme. I need a word that tells me, that says wayward doesn't feel like it's strong enough. Wayward's another one that I could see replacing drifting. Let me put some things here because I like what did we just say? Astray. Wayward could also potentially go here, which I actually might like it better than off course because you might not be off course. I mean, the thing is too is they're probabilities. So it's hard to see. Do I still have the document up? Yeah, let me bring it up here. So here are my actually I can kind of stay there. Get rid of that. Here are my charts where you can actually read what they're saying. So these are basically what we came up with on stream yesterday. So if you're drifting, there's still a good probability that you're going to go in the same direction, but there's a 33% chance, which is not insignificant. Remember, we're making multiple rolls. We're going to be making rolls every turn. So if you keep in mind that these are not once per day rolls, these are once per 3-hour rolls. So if you're traveling for a whole day, well, let's just say that's 9 hours, then you're rolling this, 3 times. So it's a 33% chance, but you're going to be rolling it 3 times. So it's more, we could go back to any dice and look at the odds. So in any case, if you're just adrift or astray or whatever, there's a good chance you might still be going the way you're going, but there's also a chance you're going to be kind of going off course. But notice you're not at this level. You're not going backwards. You're not going you're still going in some variation of the way you think you're going, but you're starting to curve. But of course, if you hit this once and you're curving, then the next time you might hit it, now your direction, you might be curving again. You get another one this, and then you are going that way from your original course. So over time, if you're drifting and you start off the morning and you start drifting and then you roll a couple of ones, now suddenly you're sort of doing a turn. You're kind of turning around. The boat's moving in the wrong direction. If you're off course, now your chances of going in the direction you think you're going in are even lesser. And like I said, they're all compounded, so it could be increasing. But now you have chances to kind of go back around, but you're not going to get totally turned around at this level. Of course, you can. It just takes multiple rolls. If you roll, a couple of 6s or 1s, you are actually going to kind of turn around. But it takes you 2 turns to do that. So in a day, you might not. Now, if you're disoriented, hey man, you have no idea. Like spin the wheel. Every roll is taking you in a new direction. So have fun with that, and then you're doing this, every turn. So I might need to change that. I wonder if I should do that every turn. Should I do that every turn, or should I do that? Because right now I say that start off with every turn that the party is traveling while lost, roll to determine their actual. Maybe I'll just do that the first time, and then you just kind of keep going straight unless you get lost again. Let me fix that. So the first First turn that the party's traveling while lost. Right. Or, oh, here we go. I'll this. Every time that the party, every time that the wilderness die results in lost, get rid of that. Roll d6 terminate. All right. So every time you get I think that's better. So we're going to have, it's going to be one, yeah. So you get lost, you roll to see which way you're going. And then if you don't get lost again, you'll kind of just keep cruising in that way. But then if you roll another one, yeah, I think that's good. That way you don't end up spinning around in circles or doing like that. I don't want it to be too, I'm not trying to make it too, horrible. Where's I had my, there we go. There's my group. Not trying to make it too terrible. Okay. And that's kind of where I stopped. So now we're into fresh territory. Oh, I guess just to finish up. So if you begin the turn with a level of lost and you suffer a result of loss in the wilderness die, you step down the lost level before doing anything. Right. So I should probably put this in some kind of number order because it's kind of the steps you go through. If you're starting a loss, then you step down. So if you start off and you were drifting and you roll another loss, then bloop, you go to off course. If you have adverse conditions, you will also step down. And if extreme, you step down twice if you can. If the party is led by an experienced local guide, you get to step up. If the party has an accurate local map, you get to step up. And you could probably add something that if they've been through here multiple times, you could probably, maybe I'll put a note in about that. Some of the stuff, and I'm curious how you guys feel. You guys let me know. There's some things that kind of, to me, fall under the category of common sense, which is if the party's been tromping back and forth from a place that's a couple of hexes away. And remember, we're doing 3-mile hexes. At least that's my thing. I'm not putting in this document because it doesn't really, the scale, I suppose, doesn't matter too much because we're doing it off of time and not off of hexes traveled. Though you could easily change it for that. The you might want to say, even if there's no path, if you've been doing it a few times and you made it back and forth, then your chances of getting lost will go down. I mean, people get lost in their backyards. So, some people are like, well, you made it there once, and so you never get lost again. It's like, no, I get lost. I've gotten lost getting turned, or you can get turned around and you're not even far from anything, from landmarks, and you could always get turned around. And also you could probably have a particular action or activity that you could take on, like scouting something else or wayfinding or trailblazing, that is literally putting your marks down, and that could also help. I don't have those in here right now because I put them sort of under the auspices of, hey man, common sense context, right? Look at the context of your situation before rolling a bunch of dice and deciding what happens. And if the context doesn't fit, then don't do it or modify it as needed. But you folks let me know if it's worthwhile to have some of that stuff in there, because on the one hand, I think it's new DMs and things that I get it. It's also, but it also lets to kind of bloat, and you can end up with a whole bunch of almost flow charts of decisioning that for the most part aren't really worth it, because I'm never going to be able to give you all the different circumstances in your game that might happen. At some point I have to stop and say, edge cases handle, right? Krister says they get lost in thoughts. I don't think it's bad to get lost in thoughts. I mean, I suppose it depends what you're doing. If you're driving a car, then yes, you don't want to get lost in thoughts. If you're hanging out at home, then feel free. You're daydreaming, that's kind of the point. Krister says, especially considering how barren the landscape of their thoughts is, nothing but tumbleweeds. Oh, I don't believe that for a minute, Krister. You're giving yourself short shrift. I don't buy that at all. All right, so that's all the hot nonsense for navigation. Now the only other one I think I need to do is the encounter bit, which does now. And this is the one thing where I am changing things just in terms of surprise. I'm not really changing anything, but I'm kind of changing what the die roll means. So Terrence has got no shrift. Yeah, you're full of shrift. You are chock full of it, Terrence. Okay, so let's do that. So we got this is the lost. What is that? Results. So I got to do another three hashtags 3 4 encounter. So we're going to how did we say this was going to work? Oh yeah. Let's see. We've got. I'm just trying to go up to where did I put those distances? Here we go. Just gonna copy this really quick. Get rid of that. Okay. When an encounter roll, when encounter oh my ham-fisted hands. Counter result is rolled. All right, so how do I explain this? Now I can babble on and kind of talk about it and explain it, but how can I explain this? The idea is so when encounter result is rolled, begin at the distant range. Begin at the distance range. When encounter results roll, begin at the distant range. All right, now I'm going to use some one. So one, roll for surprise per the rules of your for the normal rules of your game. Rules of your game. Because I really don't care. I really don't. I really don't care. Let's see. So I think I guess I'm just gonna have to write this out and want to go back because the thing is why I'm my struggle is slightly because I have a couple of different elements at this part. This is where things get. I don't think it's complicated in terms of actual thing, but this is where we're going to get things diverging. Everything so far, you can just drop it in and nothing's changing at whatever your home system is. This is the one that requires. It doesn't require changes instead, but it like we looked at yesterday, setting up some. Where's my thing? Yeah, so setting up this owl bear, right? And I have this domain. I just might use distant for this instead, but I kind of like this domain idea. That kind of staged encounter idea. So I have to try to figure out how to do this. But first, let me just get I think it's probably better to get the procedure down. This is the range. You know what? I can do this. When an encounter is rolled, if this is the first encounter of that all right, actually, all right, I got to do this. All right, let's. All right, okay, so here we go. All right, because what I have to do is I'm forgetting a step, which someone else to roll, which is to roll in your encounter. Right, follow. So okay, when an encounter results rolled, follow these steps. So I'm gonna have to change this up here. Let's see. I need to put 2. How's this looking here? Yeah, I do like that. One cool thing about Markdown in this instance is notice. since I started with this with 1 and then I added one before it, and I'm going to add one before it automatically took this one of and changed it to match the list. You don't once you start a list, you kind of don't have to worry about what the actual number is that you're putting in. It's gonna sort it out. So I could change that to 8. I think that might actually do that. No, it didn't even do it. So it totally ignores it. But if I took that one away, it would start at 8. So it's kind of cool. But still, I think my ADD-ness or whatever I'm gonna want to keep the order up. All right, so roll on your encounter. Roll on the counter. Roll on your. I don't know what. Roll on your encounter table. Your settings or systems encounter table, right? Okay, roll on your settings or systems encounter table. If this is the first, if the counter table result is the first of its kind, begin at the distant range. 3. For every roll on your table, roll on your settings or systems encounter table. If this is the encounter table, if the encounter table result, I'm gonna have to do an example with this, I am sure. If the encounter table result is the first of its kind, begin at the distant range. For every if let's copy that. If the counter table result has occurred now, if this is the I don't know. If the encounter result, okay, so if the encounter result is the first, you begin at distant. That's easy. If the encounter result has occurred more than once during this, here's another thing I didn't think about. Probably need to consider this, but I don't want to stop now. But I need to make a note. And I'm not gonna need this in a minute, but when does the encounter clock, if you will, reset? Well, I'm gonna have to figure that out. When does the clock reset? I don't want it to be too soon, and I don't want it to be too long, because you're moving, and you're potentially moving out of the range of certain things, and you don't want it to seem like these things are rubber banding to catch up to you. And it could be this could be. I might just make a note to look at. Does it seem like you've gotten away? I mean, it might be the simplest thing might be to just say, hey, when it seems right, or when you feel like they've gotten far enough away or whatever, then reset the clock or reset the distances. I'm not sure yet. So roll on your setting or systems encounter table. If the encounter table result is the first of its kind, begin at the distant range. If the encounter table result has occurred more than once, step down for each after the first, i.e., the second time an owlbear encounter is rolled, the encounter distance shifts from distant to far. Right? Right. All right, so roll in your settings of systems encounter table. If the encounter table is the first of its kind, begin at the distant range. I'll say begin at distant range. If the encounter table result has occurred more than once, step down for each occurrence after the first, i.e. the second time an owlbear encounter is rolled, the encounter distance shifts from distant to far. And then 4, roll for surprise per your settings or systems rules. 5, if let's see, if if both sides are surprised, shift down the encounter distance. Both sides are surprised, shift down the encounter distance, right? So we go from, so you might end up, so let's just use our example again. If you roll for an owlbear, and you start off at distant, then if you rolled it a second time, now it's far. If you both were, and sorry, if you roll distant and let me say, okay, let me add, I gotta add this. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna add something in here. Sorry. Okay. Oh, oops, I added the wrong. Whoops, wrong spot. This up. I feel like this sounds complicated, but I don't think it actually is. I say that. I say as a person who's doing this, I don't think this is actually complicated in practice, but it's gonna. I think it might read as daunting the first time you read it, but I think it's hopefully, and of course you guys can let me know. Hopefully, it will feel and seem sensible and logical when you do it. So you roll on you roll on your encounters, whatever your encounter table you're using. It doesn't matter what it is. If you get the first time you've gotten it, you begin at distant. If you get it again, you step down 1. So if you get it, like I said, the first time you get an owlbear, you start at distant. If you roll owlbear again, now it's far. So it's kind of getting closer, which I think is fine. If both sides are so now you're going to roll for surprise. If one side is surprised, they at their prerogative, they may shift up or down. I don't know how this works. If I double, does that work? What does that look like? Okay, good. Or down, counter distance. So if you surprise the owlbear, you roll it distant, and they're like, owlbear. Oh, actually, also, they observe presence of the other party. If one side is surprised at their prerogative, they may shift up or down at the encounter distance. They observe the presence of the other party. Easy peasy, right? And this might actually be better because then you don't have to worry about. You don't have to set up a whole bunch of encounter these check marks. I mean these things for each creature, which might be kind of good. You can just you leave it up to you. If you see what would you see at just distant of the owlbear? Again, you might see traces. I might put just a. I think I might keep this or just give some for suggestions just so people have it. So if one side is surprised at their party, they may shift up or down their encounter distance. They observe the presence of the other party. I think that makes sense. If both sides are surprised, shift down. I'm going to say ×2. Let's make things fun. Distance. Do not observe each other unless at close range. So, where are we at? So you roll for surprise, start, you're stepping down. Both sides are surprised, you get down 2. So you can start at distant and then 1, 2. You can end up basically within charging or running if you're both surprised, which I think is fair. But you haven't actually surprised, haven't actually seen each other yet. So here's the thing. I don't know why I'm just thinking about this now, but this is how things work. By the rules, if both sides are surprised, they ought in a dungeon. All right, let's just back up here a minute. In a dungeon, if you're in an encounter and you get double surprise, both parties are going to see each other. They're just kind of gonna be. It's almost like negated. Like you see each other, and both sides go like "Oi," and then whatever you do. But in the wilderness, I kind of think that you could pass by each other. It doesn't even take that much space. If you're a party of 5 or 7 people and you're in the woods, and there's an owlbear that's also in the woods, you don't have to be, or even. I mean, this happens all the time when hiking or anything else. There was one time. This is a while ago now. Me and my daughter and my wife were hiking. Hiking. It wasn't. It's a little bit more difficult than a walking trail, but I wouldn't exactly call it some kind of real this is a strenuous hike. But I guess technically it's a hike, so I'll say go ahead. We're on a hike. I'm gonna play up my prowess. We're on a hike, and it's a loop that kind of goes. You start off, and you park the car, and you go kind of on the trail, and it loops down and follows this where 2 rivers come together. Where are my cartography bros at? Yes, 2 rivers, small rivers, little rivers combining, and you basically follow a trail that goes and it kind of follows the V of that. You kind of come around and you can circle back. And we saw some other people who were on a different part of the trail. I think we had, you get to a point when you're on these loop trails that you can basically pick which direction you're going to go. So we picked one direction. I think another a family or whatever was coming the other way, and they told us like, oh, hey, look, just so you know, there's a bear and her cub about, which is cool to see. But you also, you see a bear when you get this kind of, hey, there's a bear and their cub, especially with the cub part. It's like, okay, really cool nature. We're gonna see a bear and a cub, but you also want to be aware. And it's funny as the city person in this mix, even though I spend some time in the country, but I would never consider myself a country person at this point. I don't spend near enough time. I don't have near enough experience, blah, blah, blah. Folks who live up there, and I'm not even talking super far away, they understand how essentially the fact that there's a bear and a cub is not like, ooh, like to me, it's like, oh gosh. But to them, it's like, okay, you know what, you kind of know what to do, kind of do it, which is really my understanding is you see different advice about it, like the bear is looking at you. What do you do? But apart from any of that, what you really want to do, the first thing you want to do is if you know a bear's around, or really just in general, when there might be a bear around, and if you're in some of these wilderness areas and it's not winter, late fall, winter, when the bears should be kind of abed, but they're up and at them, especially when they have cubs, is you don't want to be quiet. Stealth is not your friend, which is kind of an interesting thing. I think when you could probably come up with some ways that you want to gamify that stuff, but You don't want to be quiet, because what you want is you want the bears to be well aware that you're around. They're not looking for you. I mean, whatever, some kind of mad bear, the one in a million kind of thing. They're not looking for you. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to surprise the bear or somehow get between the bear and the cub. And you don't want any of that to happen. As Krister mentions, a bear and a cub is cool to see in the distance. Yes. And they will keep their distance and they will leave you alone. But what they need to know is that you're there so that they keep their distance and they know that you're because if you think about it, in a natural circumstance, why are you stealthing around in the woods? Because you're hunting. You're either trying to evade something or more likely you're hunting something. So if you're stealthing up, if the bear feels like you're stealthing up on them, like, what are you doing, right? In the bear's mind, like, what are you doing? What are you doing exactly? You're trying to sneak up on me, sir or ma'am. That's not what you want. You want to say, hey, we're here and we're just hiking and we are la 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 la, oh, nature. So you want to kind of be loud and make sure that your presence is known and not try to be ninja hiker who doesn't make a noise. That's actually a really bad thing to do. But the point of this whole story was not that anything bad happened, but that we didn't see the bear, even though in terms of, because it's a loop and it's not that long of a loop. If you cut the distance around, we were probably within half a mile at most. Looking at if I probably took like I said, we're in this V and the trail's kind of following the river a bit. If you sort of, if you took the two furthest distance parts away and looked at how actually far they are away from each other, half mile might even be generous. They're close. They're close. And we did not see the mother and the bear. So I guess what I'm saying with all this is, whereas in the dungeon, it kind of makes sense because you're all in fixed corridors and such. So if you're in a 10-foot corridor and somebody's coming around the corner, you're going to see, once you get to a certain point, it's like you're seeing them. I mean, unless they're behind you, but I would just, that's kind of the surprise part of it is, are they behind you and you don't know it, sort of thing. But you're going to see, right? It's that, oh, you're both surprised, but you're still in such close confines that, oh, you're going to see each other and then you go on. But in the wilderness, I feel like if you're within close range, that's where you're like, oh, you both see each other. If you are anywhere further than that, you might be within running distance, a double move, whatever that means to you, but you might, because of stuff, whatever, daylight fading, sun in your eyes, I don't know, whatever it is, trees and being screened by vegetation, whatever it is, you don't see them. So I actually think that's kind of a feature rather than a bug for the wilderness, which is kind of nice because I like these things, which I've mentioned in other videos and stuff like that, that I think it's great to leverage procedures across dungeons and wilderness, but I think it's also great to look at and say, well, how are these things different? And yeah, in the dungeon, within a certain point, yeah, you're seen. It's harder to explain why you wouldn't be seen than to just say you're both seen. But in the wilderness, I feel like you could say, there is more stuff. Even in a grassland, grass can get tall. There's still bushes and trees and such. Maybe the animal or whatever creature it is down, whatever. There's lots of reasons why things you could pass fairly close to things and not see them. Agree or disagree? Give me your thoughts, Rancho Cucamonga. All right, now, so that was okay. Where were we? After that, I'm going to call it a brief aside, though it probably wasn't that brief. We're back to this. So let's go back over the table here. So we're going to roll on the iron counter table. If the result is the first of its kind, begin distant, got that right. If it's occurred more than once, you're going to step down, roll for surprise. If one side is surprised, at their prerogative, they can shift up or down. So if you want to get close to the owlbear, you can start to try to get closer. If you want to get away from the owlbear, you can get away. It's kind of like a built-in evasion, just a really easier way of doing evasion. It's not the evasion rules that you find in AD&D or OD&D, or I think BX has it too, where the size, I'm at this point it's just very simple because they're not aware of you, so it's not really. So we're taking for as written that as read, I guess is really the phrase. Taking as read that you can disengage because they don't know you're there. So it's not you're evading, but it's not you're not evading active pursuit. Those kind of rules would come into play if you're being actively pursued. There's no active pursuit yet. You kind of see them, they don't see you. So do you duck behind something and kind of just get away? Or, do you decide you want to try to creep up on them, in which case you can. if you're both surprised, I just think it's kind of fun to say, like, okay, now you guys are both, you're closing in because you just don't know any better. And then, you can use whatever the next kind of thing. You could, I mean, like I said, you could see rolling a die, maybe the next turn. Do you guys close? Might be kind of fun. Maybe I'll put in a note here. Both sides are surprised. Shift down 2 to the encounter distance. The parties do not observe each other unless at close range. They observe the other party. Right. So now let's make another little tableau. Do I use a table anywhere here? Well, I kind of do. I'm just going to copy this. Make a little note here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Observation. Observation can take form of any of the observation can occur through any of a creature's senses, sight, sound, smell, etc. It can be direct, or indirect. The nature of the observation should match the context of the range at which it was made. Some suggestions below. We're going to throw this table in. I'm going to change this to range. We're going to change this to observations. And so we'll say, let's do some copy pasting. I want to keep it in bold. I'll use the italics. Distance far. Oh yeah, I'm going to need. I'll put close. Should I put one for close? Suppose why not? Nope, don't want one. Okay. Oh yeah, I don't need asterisks here. Distance. What do we say for distance? Yeah, old scat tracks. What would we call it? Is there a name for what we call, feathers, fur? Is there a name for that? Tracks or other traces. All right, what do we say for this one? Yeah, recent scat. Traces or other then near, we're going to get to calls, sounds, oh, it's spore. Oh, you know what? Scat. Yeah, that's great. Yep. I like that. The spore. Where's my definition? What do we get for spore? Because I might not need scat if spore. Because I feel like, doesn't spore include scat? Or am I misremembering? What do we got here? A track, a trail, a scent, or droppings. Okay, great. So I can just use spore. Yeah. Thank you, Krister. That's a good one. I'd totally forgotten about that. Older, yeah, old spore or other traces. Recent spore traces. Let's see. Calls, sounds, voices. Smells. Calls. Yeah, I guess audible. Mm, audible calls. I guess we're going to go with sounds or smells. Christian says, I think spore covers everything. Incidentally, the Swedish word spar, oh, it sounds as spore. Spore basically means the same thing. Not a coincidence, I don't think. I'm sure it's not. Does it say? Sometimes we get word history. Noun, Afrikaans from Dutch, akin to English spoor, spoor, spurnon, to kick. More at the spurn entry. That's kind of interesting. I always like these rabbit holes. Where's the, here we go. Middle English from the Old English spurnen, akin to the High German spurnen, to kick. Latin spernere, to spurn. Greek sperian, sperian. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that. What is the etym online? Etym on. What is it online? I kind of like that one a little bit better. Spore, track, trace. Afrikaans spoor from Dutch spoor, from Middle Dutch spoor, Old English spoor, Proto-Germanic spur from, what is it? Proto-Indo-European spere, which means ankle, which also it is, and it related to spur. So cool. But yeah, spore is a good word. It covers a lot of ground, which is good for our usage. Just what we want. All right, so old spore, recent spore, direct sounds, smells. I guess smells or direct visual types. Okay, observation can occur through any of a creature's senses, sight, sound, smell, etc. It can be direct or indirect. The nature of the observation should match the context of the range at which it was made. Some suggested below: old spore are the traces, recent spore are the traces. Direct, you know, I'm just going to call it sounds or smells, and a recent spore. Close direct visual contact. Great. And I don't think I need this part anymore. Get rid of that. Now, when should the when should this, all right, yeah, actually this is pretty good. I'll do this. All right. When to reset the encounter distance. Whenever party successfully camps for 2 turns or enters a different terrain type, we're going to shift up the encounter distance, which I think is fair. And that's kind of nice. So you can kind of, things will get further away from you if you leave the terrain. So if you're in some big woods, then maybe the thing in the woods is following you. It's kind of creepy. It's cool. You're gonna have it. That's gonna kind of back up. Doesn't mean that it might. If that creature is still in that encounter, right? Your whatever your encounter table is, then it's possible you might still get the creature. In which case it'll kind of close again. But this means that you'll kind of get this. I'm thinking it'll be kind of a gradual parting of the ways, which I think is what I want. I think it's good for what I'm looking for. Okay, so let's see. Was there anything else I needed to do? Should I put a note? I'm not going to put a note. I might, if when I kind of put this in something better, I'll probably have an example of showing how you can put little tick marks or something to show kind of where your encounters are. But I think I'm going to leave that itself. I think that's all, right? Have I covered anything? All right, so we'll do. I'll make a thing for this. So we'll call it, what are we at now? Resupply. We can make another table, right? We can do. Oh, this will be good. Yes. This is going to be good too. Oh, I'm liking this. I'm liking. I got an idea. I know I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying this will be good, but I'm going to use this in a sec for this. I think it'll be good. I think this is going to be good. Actually, I'm going to call it not res. I'm going to call it supply found. I'm going to rename this. Supply found, supply lost. Supply found. Yep, let's see. Okay. We're gonna copy paste this. Whoops. What to do? Am I the only one that kind of gets, you have that, you know exactly what you want to say, but then you got to say it? Party has found some supply, food, water, or fuel during travel. Roll 1d6. Consult 1d6 and consult the table below. And this is not the table, so I'm gonna have another table and another table. Modifying supplies found by terrain type. Optional. Roll. Let's see. What did I say for I used this before. Was my language good? dice. Choose the highest results. And we have moderate, 1 guy, 2 extreme. Great. And it's really the same. I'm just going to put it here because at the moment I don't care. I'm just going to change that to lost. Okay, now I need to make the actual table. So we need the result. Lies found. So remember, we're doing this. The one thing with this, I don't know if it's not really tricky, but because I'm trying to use this up and down, I'm going to make sure, I want to make sure that the best things are actually at the low numbers, the way this is set up. So 1 is, in this case, going to be the best. But these are all GM facing roles, so I don't mind doing this. For players, I don't know. I always feel like I just want to root for, I like rolling high numbers and feeling good about that than rolling low numbers. I think it's a very personal thing. So let's see. So I'm going to say, I want to make sure. So we're going to do 1. Oh, okay, so some amount of supplies per party member. X amount of supplies. We're going to figure out the X in a minute. X supplies per party member. At the bottom, it's going to be just 1 supply. Then maybe we could do 1 supply per 2 party members. We're rounding down. Actually, I'm going to, let's see, 1, let's see, 3. Two, 1 supply per party member. Maybe I probably will just do, I don't think we can do, yeah. And we'll just do 3. Don't need to complicate it. Don't need to complicate it. 3 supplies. I'm going to keep it the singular. 3 supply. And then I'll just make this super simple. We're just going to do 4. All right. So 1 supply per 4, 1 per 3, 1 per 2, 1 per party, 2 per party, 3 per party. All right. Party member. I think that's nice. And the same, we're going to do things a little bit differently here, I think. So we're making things, right, worse. Right, the best results are at the top, the worst. So we want to put the strongest stuff at the top. So do I want to supplies lost? Let's see, lost supplies. Maybe I should do. I'm going to call it consumed instead of lost because it could be other things. All right, now we're down to brass tacks. Supply. Consumed supplies could be lost, eaten, or spoiled. Roll 1d6 and consult the table below. All right, now we have, so consumed supplies could be lost, eaten, or spoiled. Roll 1d6 and consult table below. Do I just want to reverse this table? I mean, that would be the easiest thing. I don't need this anymore. I have it down here. I guess that's what I'll do. Yeah, I'm gonna cut this one out. Cut that, throw it up here, then cut this, move it down here. Cut this one out and put it here, and cut that out and put it here. All right, so the worst, because you're going to remember, you're going to take the highest. So in the desert, which I think is cool. In the desert, you're going to roll 3 dice, take the highest one, blah, 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 and then right, do that. I'm going to add a little bit about the adverse conditions stuff, which I have used. Let me see where the best. I'll add this up. Actually, I just really want this. Name type, yeah. Oh, wait a minute. That's not what I wanted. Oh, I put my tables in the wrong spot. Oh, hold on. Let me just write down this language, copy paste that. I gotta grab this, cut it here, then cut this, move it up here. There we go. And now I can cut that, put it step down the result. Stream conditions 2 times, step down. So that's bad. And the same thing here. I can make a note here. If conditions are particularly favorable at, what's the word for at, the referee's discretion, step up result or step up times 2 if extremely, or I just play if very favorable. So I'm putting this in twice, which is, you could say, is not particularly practical, but I like, because I really especially at this point, I want someone to be able to just consult the section they're in and not have to go doing a bunch of digging around. So having it for both things means that if I'm just looking at, oh, I hit supply consumed, you know, I can just read that and I get everything and not have to check up. That's why I'm okay with the way this is set up, just doing it twice. Doing it twice and not being particularly worried about the fact that it's in there twice. And it's not a huge amount of space. And I'm not at the point where I'm publishing it or printing it, so I don't care about. This is just it's a digital document. So right now I'm easy peasy to be loosey goosey with repetition as long as it helps me get the point across. Let's see. Oh my God, let's see. Of the parties supply. What did I cut? Yep. Has been lost. Either misplaced, consumed, or spoiled. Some of the party supply food, water, or fuel. Fine. Is there anything else I want to say? Lost, either misplaced, consumed, or spoiled. Roll 1d6 color table below. That. Okay, that's fine. I think that's good. Is there anything else I need to do here? I think this covers everything. Should I put it? I can't don't want to notate stuff to help people, but I also think just do what you want. I will put in a note, I suppose. It's really more about the encounters. I've been thinking about it in my brain that put a little note. Note. This system will produce better results with smaller encounter tables. Smaller encounter tables. Large tables will not produce many matches, and thus encounter distances will tend to remain static and let's say no. This system will produce better results with smaller encounter tables. Large tables will not produce many repeat results. Repeat results. Large tables will not produce many repeat results, so encounter distance will tend to remain static. And I use far on the table, so I'm trying not to use far. Did I use far? Right. So what am I using? I'm forgetting my things. What do I have? I think I have isn't it distant? Yeah, distant far. So okay, let's go back. This is great. Let's go back and see where's my thing about far. Turn on the thesaurus. Long. Or long could work. Away. What does away get? I got distance already. Oh, far off. Yeah, I like far off. I'm down with far off. Where's my notes? Here we go. Note, this system will produce better results. I'll make this an actual header. note. How about this? A note on encounter tables. This called a procedure. This procedure will produce better results with smaller encounter tables. Large tables will not produce many repeat results. So encounter distance will tend to remain static and far. Oh, it's far. I don't want to use far. I just didn't want to use far. I just fell right into it. Where did I put my tab at? Let's see what else we got. Not far off. Remote. Yeah, that's good. And remote as an alternative to this. Roll 1d6 to set an initial counter distance. Hey, look at that. We got figured out an issue, and I'm gonna solve it. Roll d6 to, actually, it's not to say set, to modify the initial encounter distance. All right, where's our numbers? I don't think I'm gonna do a whole 1 through 6 thing. What I'm gonna do a nice net result. Counter distance modifier. Right, great. So I'm gonna just do 1 to 3, 4 to 5, and then 6. That's all we need. And then I'm going to say that, and here's what I like, right? So say, no modifier. So half the time, no modifier. And then a third of the time, we're going to say step down. And then so it's still, there's still a above average chance. Oh no, an average chance you're going to end up at that distance, which is fine. But then you have an opportunity, or there is an opportunity to go to start off at, and this is before you do other things, right? Or anything else is happening. You might go down 2, or you might go down 1 or 2. So you start distant, right? You might go down to far, or 1, 2 to near. Now you can't do close. You could still end up with close. Oh, I guess I'll make another note. Results, small tables, right? Modify, right? Let's see. If using counter tables, this is another optional. Using this optional method, optional step, roll and apply this modifier before adjudicating surprise. I think methinks this will do it. At least for beta. Right. Procedure, every turn in the wilderness, roll the wilderness die and follow the procedure and come result, if any. Right. If camping or otherwise not if camping, if the party is at rest or remaining in a location, ignore Oh, you know what? I should move that. That's not really. If the party is at rest or remaining at a location, ignore any. Or should I step down? Step down by 2. Step down times 2, the result. Only if so if the party's at rest or remaining at a location, step down by 2. So hopefully means you can't get ignore. Actually, maybe I should just say ignore results of lost. Ignore results of lost and supply found. If the party is at rest, I guess I should say this. It's really at rest. If the party is acting, if the party is remaining, that's a horrible word. If the party is operating at if the party is staying, there we go, at a single location, ignore results of lost. The party is active but staying. Okay, I think that makes sense. So if the party is at rest, ignore results of lost and supply found, right? You're staying still, you're not going anywhere. If you were lost before, you'll remain lost, but you won't get more lost by just staying still. If the party is so that's at rest, right? I think that's, should I bold that to make it clear? At rest. If the party's active but staying in a single location, then I feel like you could find supply, but you won't get lost. You still might get an encounter. Encounters might happen. Right. So now let's see. If you're resting, that's 2 rolls. Party's active but staying in a single location. Ignore results of lost. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm just trying to think about the last thing I'm trying to think about here is if I want to put any kind of modifier for if you got a good campsite. I'll put an optional thing in there. Why not? I have good terrain effects. Camp effects. Optional. Okay. To modify. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. To what's the word I want to use? Not modify. To I don't want modify to okay, I'll just do this. The results of the wilderness die. Okay. The quality of a chosen campsite can modify the results of the wilderness die as follows. Okay. Campsite quality. Oh yeah, I don't need campsite is a word. Quality modifier. I think I might just have the excellent, good. Yeah, maybe I'll just have good, poor, and terrible. I'll just leave it like that. I don't know why I'm doing this because it doesn't matter at all. All right, excellent. Yeah, we're going to step down. Yeah, just step down. No, step up. Sorry, step up. No modifier. Step down. Step down times 2. Excellent. Step up. Good. No modifier. Poor step. And I know I could be doing like step up times 2. I suppose I could do that. Should I have? Okay. I'll add another category to make it. Sure. Or actually, no, sorry. Good. Right. This would be decent. And good will be just step up. What I like about this is, and this is kind of one thing is with this is it's starting to introduce topics they might be interested in, but it's an idea that another way that you can leverage class stuff. So you can have a ranger type or some kind of outdoorsman who can find good campsites, and if they find good campsites, then and they spend you spend time, then you can roll up. Right? Follows, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Finding campsites. And the party searches for a campsite. Roll 1d6 and consult the table below for the quality of campsite found. And so I need another one of these, but I need to add. I'm going to add. So results. I don't need this. No modifier. Right. let's see. Let me just do this in steps. All right, let's get rid of all these. Get rid of all these. Riveting video, I know. But it's all good. Because I think this is actually, I don't know. You guys are all quiet as church mice. But I think this is actually, I'm pretty happy with this. All right, so 1. Yeah, I'm gonna take excellence. And I'm gonna take terrible. And I'll show you why. Because this is a fun thing you can do with some of these things. So we're gonna do 1 to 3, 4 to 5, 6. Actually, no, I want what I want. Sorry. No, I want. Yeah, I'm gonna do 1, 2 to 5, and 6. So you're mostly gonna get decent. I think that's fair. But now we can add some things, right? So we can add our same bit here of, hey, the worse the terrain is, the harder it is to do, which is this here. Where did I go? Where was my camping? There we go. No, it's, oh, that's where I was copying from. Where am I going? There we go. Camp. Okay. Do I have even a? Do I have a 5th? Oh, that's terrible. To modify this role. To modify this role. What's the word I'm looking for? No, it's not quite what I want. Finding campsites. Oh, to roll by terrain. Roll multiple dice and choose the highest result. Actually, no, what I was going to do, yeah, that's fine. Right. And then we're going to get a couple of, here we go. Party begins, right, adverse conditions. Yeah. So we're going to step down if we got adverse conditions. Step up the result if you have a great guide. I don't think the map is going to matter so much. So the way by terrain, roll multiple dice. And I'll say, if the party spends a turn locating a suitable campsite, step up the results. All right. Who doggy? I think I'm done. For now. But I'm pretty darn happy with this. So what's going to happen now? This is not final. All right, beta. I'm going to, in a long-winded pitch for patrons, and I'll try to do something for channel members too. It's really hard to figure out because YouTube, they got this channel memberships, and I have some channel members, and I'm always appreciative of patrons and channel members. But YouTube doesn't really give It's hard to share things with channel members other than images. Images I can chuck up onto a community post and share with channel members. I can't, upload a PDF or something for channel members like I can for patrons. I'm still trying to figure out what to do. It might just be that if you're a channel member, then it's just going to be a matter of I'm going to try to do more kind of early releases of videos, and maybe once I need to reach a critical mass of channel membership, which I don't have, I could maybe do some channel member streams and videos, things like that. I'm just not enough folks. So I need to get more folks. So this will go up pretty much in this form to patrons, so they can check it out and play around with it, use it. At some point, this will go into something, because I think I'm kind of on to something. At least I like where this is. I like what this is and what it's doing, where it's going, whatever. There might be some more kind of polishing, tweaking, whatnot, and then they'll probably turn up in probably something I already have, like a Wooden Wold and Do Anything D6 Wilderness. So if you already have downloaded those or purchased those from me, then some version of this will probably end up in the next version I do of those, which I'm hoping to get to very soon, probably next week, I think. So in that case, you can just kind of just wait and see. But if you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/hexpress. You can get access to this now. Or, you could probably just figure out what I'm doing and tweak it for your own heart's content. In any event, I'm done for the moment. I'm excited. It's game night tonight, so that'll be a lot of fun. If you have thoughts about this or ideas, let me know. Other than that, folks, game on, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.